just a bunch of asphalt, man. And when I came down to North Carolina, I had never seen so much green in my life, just trees and grass. And, you know, we just thought it was beautiful because we would come down here and play in the summer anyway, you know, for summer break or whatever. So we relocated, man, and you know, it wasn't the best of neighborhoods, and once again, it was the coattail of that crack era, man, where, you know, kids my age began selling drugs, and, you know, they also picked up weapons, and, you know, it became a violent and, you know, just World War III pretty much, man. But I was fortunate to find a way. My grandmother was a praying grandmother, man, so I'm glad she was, and I know I'm the recipient of her prayers and a byproduct of her prayers, man. And I was fortunate to escape, and, you know, I had some mentors. I had some people that were in the neighborhood that watched over me and made sure no one else touched me or, you know, surrounded me with any hurt, harm, or danger. And, you know, I was just blessed, man, because God has given me a vision beyond my present set of circumstances. So I could see this day when I was 8, 9 years old. As crazy as that may sound.
Yeah, Coach, this is Daimeon. Now, you said you matriculated down from Massachusetts to Raleigh, and you know, you played basketball. That was your sport. That you were a basketball savant, some may say. Excellent player at Enloe High School. Use those tools to, you know, get your degree, and you were able to go to school at North Carolina Central University. Explain to the All Things Sport podcast what it takes as a student athlete in high school to keep his grades up, to stay in school, to stay out of trouble, in order to make that God-given talent, whether it be basketball, football, what may have you, work for you, where you can get a scholarship and play at the next level.
Yeah, the thing is, man, and I'm sure you guys know, you know, some local playground legends. I wasn't the best person in my neighborhood when it came to the game of basketball. You know, I had a talent, but if I'm being honest, there were people that were more talented than I. It was just they didn't take care of themselves academically, so they were always ineligible to play at school, and they just didn't take their academics, you know, seriously. They would skip school and, you know, hang out in the streets, and, you know, they just did it. They attended school for leisure and recreation, if that makes any type of sense. So there was a young man by the name of Gary Madison. And when you get an opportunity, look him up. Gary Madison was the coldest basketball player I've ever seen in my life. He went to Broughton High School, which produced Shavlik, Randolph, Pistol Pete, Maravich. Like, they've had some talent. He was 5 years older than I. And he would often be in the same project as me. He was the first guy at NC State. You know, they were the reason his recruitment was at an all-time high. And, I mean, you're talking about a guy in the 80s who was 6'4", smooth. He averaged 31 points a game in high school and never played the first quarter for punishment.
Wow.
So think about that. It's 32 minutes in a high school game. He averaged 31, but he only played 24 minutes a game. And I used to see this guy put on shows and clinics, and Robert Brickey, I don't know if y'all familiar with that name, around 86, he was the North Carolina Player of the Year. And later ended up going to Duke. Gary had 45 points on that guy. So I'm talking about Gary Madison because the reason Gary didn't attend NC State was his grades. So he had to go to Shawan Junior College at the time. And he led the nation in scoring while he was at Shawan. And he tried to go back to NC State after 2 years, and his grades wouldn't allow him. Then he went to St. Augustine's. In his first 9 games, he averaged like 46 points a game at St. Augustine's. So I used him. As a paradigm to say, look, it don't matter how nice of a basketball player you are. You better take care of these academics, man. So I've always been an inquisitive type dude. I love the history. Other subjects I didn't like, some I didn't like, but I pride myself on being the smartest guy in the room. I pride myself on being able to articulate myself. Someone once told me a smart man can play dumb, but a dumb man can never play smart. And that always stuck in my head. So I knew what that meant. I knew it was more layers to that. And, I just wanted to get an education, man, because that was something they could never take away.
And that is definitely true, Coach Moton. The education is nothing. They can't take your education away. And Pierre and I, we're testimonies to that. We're from a large family, 12 boys, 5 girls. All of us went to college. I graduated from Virginia State University, fellow HBCU. And Pierre went to Appalachian State, got his degree from there, also got a master's degree from there. So young kids out there listening to this podcast, stay in school. Don't let these streets control your actions. Don't, follow your own path and get your education. It can lead to great things in life. We're on the line again with head coach Levelle Moton of the North Carolina Central Eagles men's basketball team on the All Things Sport podcast.
Now, Coach, you were able to not only keep your grades up, but average 30 points in your high school career, which led to you getting that call from North Carolina Central. What went into your thought process in deciding which school you were going to go to and why, and how did you come to the conclusion that Central was the school for you?
Man, it's ironic that you asked that question, man, because if I'm being honest, I never chose North Carolina Central. I guess Central kind of chose me. The story was when I came out of high school, my junior year going into it, we had the number 1 AAU team in America. And my AAU team consisted of myself and Jeff Capel, who's at Duke now, Jerry Stackhouse, who was the number 1 player in the nation, Chuck Cornigan, who was probably number 15 in the nation, and Jeff McGinnis. We were absolutely loaded, man. So we were like 5 rock stars wherever we went. Tons of coaches would follow us. So my first recruiting visit was to Wake Forest. We all took a visit to Wake Forest. And at the time, I was coming from, I was uneducated through the recruiting process, man. I didn't know, when to take visits. I had no clue of none of those things. And Wake Forest was kind of pressuring me to sign immediately. And I didn't want to sign immediately. We had an opportunity to take 4 more visits, so I wanted to take all of my visits. And NC State jumped in the picture, but they were going on probation that year, and there were some other schools. I committed to one school in particular, and they were going to go on probation. So I said, I don't want to get caught up into that cycle. So at the last minute, Greg Jackson from North Carolina Central came to my apartment, and he said, I never recruited you because I ain't never think I had a chance to get you. And my mom looked at him and said, I don't care where you go. I just want you to go to school because I don't want you out here in these streets. And I was the first guy in the history of North Carolina Central to sign a letter of intent and not ever see the university, even though I was 30 minutes away. I signed at my kitchen table that night. And I just remember, it was a big thing in the news, Levelle Moton going to Central, blah, 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 blah. And I just remember saying, God, just please let me like the campus. It was the craziest thing I've ever done in my life, but I'm glad it worked out because I committed to a university and had never seen it, even though I was 30 minutes away.
Amazing story. I don't know.
That is
amazing
unbelievable.
Story. And Coach Moton, you speak about committing to Central now. When you were at Central, putting up crazy numbers, CIAA Player of the Year, 1,400 point score, getting your jersey retired. I was in high school, but I worked in the Cav at North Carolina Central. So the two, you were like the dude on campus. So, I'm in high school, I'm in 9th, 10th grade, I'm working in the Cav, the cheerleaders come in, I'm looking at the cheerleaders, and then the basketball team, I'm like, what's that? They were like, oh, that's Levelle Moton. I'm like, Levelle Moton? I heard of him. I'm like, he's supposed to be good? When you're in high school, you think you're better than everybody. So I'm like, he's supposed to be good? Oh, I'm probably better than him. But then I went to a couple games, I'm like, oh no, I'm not better than him. I am not better. So you were the man. I will give you your respect. You were the man. I can say that.
Thank you, brother.
I mean, a lot of people just talk, man. You know how a lot of people just talk, Coach. But you were definitely you definitely could play. You definitely had game. So I commend you on that, man. Again, talking to head coach Levelle Moton of the North Carolina Central Eagles men's basketball team on the All Things Sport podcast. Now, Coach, we're going to take a commercial break. And then we're going to come right back if you mind sticking around with us. We have some questions about the here and now.
Okay, absolutely.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
What up? This is Pierre Banks, and when I'm back in Boone watching the Mountaineers, my first stop is always Mountaineer Mania. The good folks at Mountaineer Mania have the widest selection of app gear, so you can cheer on the Mountaineers in style. T-shirts, hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, decals, cornhole sets. I mean, if you need it, they've got it. So head on down to Mountaineer Mania at 497 West King Street in Boone and tell them I sent you.
What you ain't heard?
Somebody done told you wrong, huh?
It's the All Things Sport podcast.
It's on
Spreaker Radio.
And we are back on the All Things Sport podcast. I am Daimeon. He is Pierre. On the line, a special guest, head coach Levelle Moton of the North Carolina Central Eagle men's basketball team. It gets no better than this.
And just to have the head coach for the Eagles on the line, man. I mean, growing up, you know, you hear about Duke, you hear about State, you hear about Carolina, but for us, you know, North Carolina Central was our hometown team. That was the team that we looked to, and we could relate to every face that was on the floor because they looked just like us.
Exactly. Now, Coach, we spoke earlier in the interview about your playing days at Central. You know, great player, CIAA Player of the Year, got your jersey retired, played pro ball overseas for, you know, several years. But you got into coaching when your playing days were over. Much like North Carolina Central chose you as a university, did coaching choose you, or did you choose coaching?
It did, man. Man, when I reflect back on my life, man, the one thing that I tell people, and I mentioned it before, is that, man, I had a praying grandmother, man, and like to back up a little bit, I spent so much time with her, man, God rest her soul, and at night she used to pray and have me pray with her, and I was a kid. I really didn't understand prayer and, you know, the setup and the template of prayer. I just didn't know. So I would just always repeat after her, and we would be down on one knee, and I got one eye closed looking at her, and she would always pray for her kids. And I never knew what that meant. You know, I would just be like, yeah, dear God, bless our kids. And, you know, I was just repeating for what she said. And it really didn't register to me until I was a grown man that her kids was me. And my best scenarios in life has come when I've taken a leap of faith. I was overseas. I was playing for 6-7 years. I was getting tired because I was spending 10, close to 11 months over there, especially if you made the playoffs. And I was coming home for like a month and going right back. So it felt like I wasn't even part of American society anymore. You know, I didn't have any credit. I had nothing over here in America because I never worked in America. So I wanted to stop playing and you know, just kind of navigate myself into the world. I had my degree and everything, so the love for the game was dwindling. And as fate will have it, my head coach at North Carolina Central, Coach Jackson, he offered me a job for $85,000 to come to Delaware State. And a week later, I'm at a summer league gym in Raleigh, and my favorite teacher of all time, 7th grade teacher, Miss Selden, she's now the assistant principal at West Millbrook Middle School, and she said, you can come be the coach. We need a basketball coach of our team. And she said, the salary is $233 a month for three months. And I had to go back and juggle. Do I take $233 or do I take this $85,000? And I took the $233 a month, man, because I didn't want anyone to give me anything. I wanted to enter on the grassroots level and learn the psyche and learn, because I knew the generation mindset of kids were changing. I wanted to understand these kids' psyche. I wanted to understand what buttons I could push and, you know, how to motivate them and all of those things. And, you know, I had a good basketball team. There was a kid that lived 3 doors down from me that I had the opportunity to coach by the name of John Wall that y'all probably heard of. So,
oh, absolutely.
Might have heard a couple things about him.
Yeah, just a couple. They made me look a little better than I actually was. I had a great AAU team, and then I went to the high school level. And I wasn't going to go to the high school level because, once again, I was such a loyal guy to my teacher, after she gave me that opportunity, I was like, I can't leave you and go to high school. But the person at Sanderson High School, the principal, was my 10th grade teacher who was asking me to come to Sanderson High School. So the value of relationships is just like never burn those bridges. And Sanderson was, traditionally known as a terrible basketball school.